And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UMG Champions Apex Legends Arena $10,000 Invitational. I'm Taylor Reflections, and we're joined by Onset and Gaskin, and we are moving into some fresh pools, some fresh groups of C and D. I'm actually really excited for this one because now we're bringing on some fresh teams, but also familiar teams from the past, and I think some of them are going to be pretty powerful. Speaking of which, Onset, let's actually talk about Group C. My bad, Gaskin.
Why when we speak of powerful, do you go to Onset? Why can't I be powerful? I feel like no.
You know
whatever.
what?
You go on.
The reason being is some people don't have to say it. If you talk about it, you automatically not. You get it? It's just, I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
So, Gaskin, do you want to cover Group C? You seem pretty hungry for that.
Not anymore. I don't feel powerful enough. So,
okay, Onset, you're powerful. Go ahead, do Group C.
Okay, so this is the power group, Group C, right? Ghost Gaming and FURIA, two huge names that we know in the Apex Legends Global Series. Two of the best teams that you could ask for in arenas as well. There's a lot of talent, and hearing in my ear as well that Graceful's going to be filling in, for FURIA. So he's one of the best players that we've seen. You know, he won arenas tournaments before, and his full lineup on Kangana. So this is going to be a really tasty game. The Wingmen versus CLG is going to be interesting for sure. CLG have been a little bit up and down, you know, over the years, and I think this new lineup that they picked up as well, there's just probably a little bit of like trepidation on how are they going to perform as well. You got Nano, Dimmy, and Luxford on there, but those three players as well, we have seen play well in arenas. So I think it's going to be there's quite an exciting thing for CLG at the moment to pick this lineup up and see how they get on. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun couple of series here, but I think we've got two of our strongest teams in the tournament at the top for sure.
I agree. I think Ghost Gaming and FURIA definitely the front runners to make it out of Group C. Group D, and now it's your time to shine, Gaskin. Let's talk about Group D. All right, let's talk about Arena Demons, Lazarus, Pittsburgh Knights, and Roller Theory.
It's hard following up after such a powerful man that is Onset, but
so powerful.
I feel like I get the better group here. We've got Arena Demons. I mean, Arena Demons have turned up every single time. I'm very impressed with what they offer when it comes to these arena tournaments. They always bring something that's innovative, something new. They try and change the meta. They have often defined the meta in a lot of these arena tournaments, if I'm honest. But Lazarus is going to be quite a difficult opening match for them, and I think that could be closer than expected, despite the fact it should be an Arena Demons win. And then we've got the Pittsburgh Knights, we've got Roller Theory also competing in the other matchup. I think that again could go right down to the wire. I think this is a really tough group to call. Outside of Arena Demons having a lot of the experience and, you know, pressure that might come with being a team who has reached the latter stages of these tournaments, I do think that these are four squads who realistically could all make it to the playoffs.
Reached the latter stages in multiple tournaments. I think they joined in the second tournament we had. They weren't in the first one. Then they ended up also competing in the third. And I want to say second place and third through fourth, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, second place in the first one and third through fourth, I think, in the other one. The point though about Arena Demons though is I do feel that they slowed down in that last tournament. They didn't seem as hungry as they once were, so I'm hoping they're going to be hungry this time around and make a big impact like they did in that second group, because they were a last-minute addition in our second tournament, and in the third tournament they were invited back. So we'll just see how well they're going to go. But regardless, let's focus our attention to the matchup at hand: Ghost against FURIA. I'm excited for this one. First and foremost, Ghost, they're bringing their actual roster into the mix, which means they're going to have that team chemistry. Everything's going to fall in line, and I think they're going to perform equally as well as they've always have. But FURIA is a team that has found great success. And Onset, you actually brought it up. Graceful filling in. He's a Kangana player. He's going to be joined by Tech and Xeratricky, which Tech and Xeratricky are in fact on FURIA. Graceful, though, being as good as he is, being that addition, you're not going to have the team chemistry per se like Ghost is going to have, but he's also going to bring tremendous value, as you mentioned.
He certainly is. I mean, he played a very interesting way as well in arenas. It's the first time that we saw someone jump on Wraith and really play like a wide flank to start things off. He was looking for entry frags every single time, and most of the time it was like, it would work. There was a few times where he got caught out and he got singled out, and that they would lose the round off the back of that, but the majority of the time, I'd say, 7 out of 10 times, which is pretty good overall. He was winning the fight to get them that opening pick, and we see how that kind of rolls on. So a great pickup for any team to add Graceful. He's one of the best players in the world, full stop, let alone in arenas.
Yeah, Gaskin, it's funny, FURIA finds success. And what's weird is I was looking at their past stats from very recent arena tournaments. I think first and third in the two that they played in, even one already this year alone. Tech and Xeratricky typically find a third, and it's not just Graceful. It's been I think two other players, if I'm not mistaken. So they're used to just cycling a player in and quickly meshing together, which is going to be fantastic and not necessarily a letdown going against a 3-stack of Ghost.
Yeah, I think a lot of these Apex players in general and the community is quite tight-knitted, that they do experiment and play with each other, whether it be just in Battle Royale or whether it be in arena tournaments or even Battle Royale tournaments as well. Like, they like to play and keep things fresh, because sometimes it can get a little bit stale when you do play with the same three over and over and over, and you want to make sure it's still fun, it's still exciting. So bringing in Graceful to this roster is going to be such a boost of confidence for them. He's going to bring a different kind of set of eyes who might have a different strategy, a different play style. We'll see how they get on. I mean, Tech has been a fantastic crypto player throughout Battle Royale, but I doubt will we see crypto being used here in arenas. Not yet anyway, but the crypto of View...
You've got nothing about you, Tech, all right? I want to see crypto played in arenas.
The crypto
Find the
of
meta.
View might be something that we see in future, because of the changes that I've seen for crypto, it's going to be a completely different legend, and I think that Tech will be very excited about that.
Chat might be happy about that. They were doing some theory crafting earlier when Fallout and Blaze were talking about like what legends would be useful here, you know, and they were throwing out a lot. I don't know if crypto was one of them, but you never know. Let's take a look at our 5 maps and see what we're going to be rolling with here. Should be pretty standard, and it actually is. We'll have the 5 same maps that we've been playing. This time around, though, Thermal Station's map number 4, not map 3, which has been pretty consistent. So it's nice to change things up. Very little Onset, but still, Party Crasher, Overflow, Phase Runner. Who's the front-running team to you off these first 3 maps?
I mean, I just go with Ghost, because I think that you look at the first 2 maps, there's a lot of close quarter battles that seem to happen. Ghosts are very, very good in those, right? They got the controller player, and you know, you're gonna have success. Full stop. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. You're gonna have success in those close range battles. But as we get into the series a little bit, you know, you start thinking a little bit more tactically. You start getting inside the heads of your opponents, how they're gonna play it, how they're gonna rotate. And that's where Tech comes into his own. He's one of the biggest thinkers in the Apex Legends Global Series, likes to really kind of step out and look at the bigger picture on how things are played. If he's going to have the time to do that in arenas, it'll be interesting because of the fact that people just seem to run at each other sometimes. But he'll certainly be looking at how he approaches this and how his team wants to approach this.
And Gaskin, you saw the maps yourself. I mean, obviously, Ghost seems to be the front runner. I think Ghost is still a favorite in this series, no matter how good FURIA truly is. This would be a big upset, in my opinion, if FURIA does win, but there's always a chance. And I think, like we mentioned earlier, when it comes to Group C, these are the 2 top teams to move forward. So FURIA, Ghost Gaming off of those maps, you expecting, well, I guess let's just go into it. Who are you expecting to win, first and foremost?
I am expecting Ghost to win, and that's going to be my prediction, but I think that it's going to come down to how much Graceful can flank and how much freedom he's given to take those angles and try and make the difference. Because if he can surprise them here and actually manage to get a knock on like out of nowhere, then of course 3 versus 2, that's going to give such an advantage to FURIA.
Sure.
So I think Graceful is who I'm going to keep an eye on just because of his playstyle, but Ghost will be my prediction.
Interesting. Onset, what are you thinking?
I'll go with Ghost as well. Me and Dan seem to be on the same page for once today, which is always a good thing.
Honestly,
I'm just less powerful. That's about it. Other than that,
look, there's a level of power shared across both of us, Dan. I do have slightly more, but combined, there's a level of power.
So much power. Yeah.
So much.
It's very powerful. There's a lot of power on the desk right now. There's a lot of power.
I can literally feel it through my screen, and we're across the sea. It's pretty fascinating, actually. You're a powerful man. How much can you squat?
I don't know what my 1 rep max is. I don't know. I do. Are we really going here? You're gonna expose
No, we're not. No, we're not. Chat. Who are you going with, chat? How much? Okay, chat can squat over 1,000 pounds. I like it. They're going with Ghost.
Okay. Huh? Oh wait, what? Don't worry. You look back in the VODs. Look back in the VODs.
I'll look back at it. I'll go check it out in just a second. I'll do a little Twitch clip and tweet it at you. I'm lying. Onset, Gaskin, you're both powerful. And Gaskin, you're a beautiful man. At least you got that on Onset. Plus, you got the hair. So really, you are absolutely fantastic in my mind, Gaskin. So I give you all the praise in the world. Did that really hurt? Come on. That's the 5th time I've used a joke on camera, Onset. We're fine.
I just know you're about to throw into the game, and you thought that'd be your parting shot. So it's all good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. And see, I knew it. See, he always does it just before he gets out of there because he.
All I'll say is it's very easy to do it when you're on.
Not a very powerful move, is it?
We have a LAN event.
Not a very powerful move.
Mark is really powerful, so if you make hair jokes around him, you might not come back from it. That's all I'll say. That's just advance warning. I've been there, and I'm less powerful. I accept that. Mark,
anyway, let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game because otherwise things are going to get even weirder than they currently are. So let's talk about some Apex because that's what everyone is here for. Nobody wants to know what our 1 rep maxes are. And if you do, it's a conversation for another show. But anyway, let's talk about this, Dan. We're starting off with the Party Crasher here. We've got FURIA on one side. We've got Ghost on the other. And I do kind of want to watch a little bit of Graceful because he's certainly one of my favorite players to watch, especially with that flatline in his hand.
Well, interestingly, Graceful's 1-rep max for squats is about 300 kilos from what I've seen. So I think he's going to be a very powerful man on this map. And no, yeah, I think that, like, genuinely, he is someone we have to watch because of his playstyle. He does like to go individually into fights, but it is usually on the flank. It's usually trying to make a difference from an angle. But it's not as easy on every single map to actually make that difference, to make those flanks. There's not those sight lines to necessarily hide behind. And I think this map in particular, there are little objects you can kind of dance around and you can sometimes scurry your way to the other side of the map. But for the most part, you can kind of be overseen from some of the higher points on the map. So we'll see what happens.
Well, no Gibraltar here for FURIA, which is certainly interesting. A lot of mobility, though. You saw Octane, you saw Wraith, of course, going to be played by Graceful, and you saw a Pathfinder as well. Ghost Gaming on the other side of things, you can see, do have that Gibraltar, so going to have that 1v1 engagement possibility. Also, the bottom to play with, which is always a good thing to have. And I'll tell you what, Tech just cracking some skulls early on here with a little 76 headshot onto the player. It was Madness, I believe he was on the receiving end of it, but it's going to only buy him enough time to pop one cell to get back up to full HP. But a little bit of a standoff between the two, and hey, Graceful, Wraith, flatline. It's almost like I read the book.
And I think once the realization comes that there is no Gibraltar on the other side, then that is going to change the tone of this game ever so slightly. When you realize that you've done enough damage, you can get quite aggressive because the other team isn't going to be able to fall back, get inside that bubble and heal up. The same goes if you get a knock. There's not going to be the opportunity to pick that player up with the cover of the bubble. So that's something that we'll see probably come into the equation with Ghost Gaming when they do realize that.
Graceful's going to be having his shields broken here. There's a little bit of flesh damage done to him as well. Does have a battery to play with, though, to get himself back up to full HP for now, but not a huge amount of damage being done. You can see maybe a bit of a play trying to be made here by FURIA, but the rest of Ghost Gaming just sitting on top of the structure and really not giving any opportunities to push. But here is that flank. Here is what Graceful does best, but the bubble goes down from 6. That's going to cause the distraction. Now they're going to ape him, but it doesn't matter because he's got that flatline in hand, but it'll be traded out almost immediately.
So important that Graceful got that kill, though. That's all you've got to do as a player if you are over there being the individual talent. But Tech now getting into an engagement in a 1 versus 2. And it looked like he was going to be able to do enough damage to try and even things out, but in the end, Ghost turn around, use that teamwork, and get the initial round on the board.
Yeah, those knockdown shields have been very influential in fights, as we know in 1v1s. If you've watched enough end zones in Battle Royales, then you'll know all about the importance of playing around that knockdown shield and kind of bobbing and weaving and popping your head up and down and getting that sight line when you need to hit those shots. But it's one thing I have noticed with teams so far now. It seems like they're trying to stay together to almost, if they do get knocked, to give that knockdown shield as a little bit of an extra HP protection, if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever in a sentence. I think it's actually something they're trying to do more often than not.
Yeah, and I do think that, you know, you've got to take advantages wherever they present themselves, especially when it comes to legend selection, because for the most part in arenas, you usually see very similar legend selection. So even though Ghost Gaming have gone for something a little bit different here, or sorry, excuse me, FURIA have gone for something a little bit different, Ghost Gaming need to then try and work out how they can take advantage of that, and that certainly is getting into those engagements when you know they are weak, they don't have the ability to bubble up. As for FURIA, what advantages have they got? Well, speed, mobility, they can get in and out of those fights very fast.
I'll tell you what, Madness has to get in and out of that bubble pretty quickly. Pandxrz is going to have the opportunity to get the knock here, but his teammates are also there to clean up the damage, and Ghost Gaming up by 2. This is back-to-back rounds, and bang, bang, very, very quickly indeed.
That is going to mean that the economic advantage is going to be there for Ghost Gaming as well, shredding inside that bubble. And I wonder whether we'll see a change from FURIA going into map number 2, whether Gibraltar might come into fruition, just because it really has helped them out, having not just the bubble, but the shield, as you say. Giving you that extra little bit of HP. And if you play it correctly, we know Gibraltar, one of the best legends in the game. May change, though. Just
for
going
now.
Forward with Apex, we do know that, of course, we have a new legend coming into the equation that is pretty much a direct counter to the Gibby bubble, so future tournaments could be very interesting.
I can't wait to sing Hey Maggie, I should let go anymore every single time that I see her on my screens. But for now, it's going to be Graceful who's on our screens. I'm pretty sure that Wraith will be more of an emo, maybe some Panic at the Disco if Wraith was in the karaoke. But for now, it's going to be the bubble fight, which is more important. Once again, it's going to be Tech who's trying to hit some shots with the flat line. Can't get out the window, though. The grapple ain't enough. Xeratricky now getting beaten to a pulp by Ghost Gaming. And Graceful says, hey, boys, what's going on here? You've left me in a little bit of a sticky situation, and 6 is going to be in a 1v1 now. He's got the Peacekeeper to play with. Graceful only takes 20 damage there, trying to bob and weave around the windowsill. Like a nosy little neighbor. Now he's going to be challenging as well. Graceful can't quite finish things off though. 60's about 2 HP. But we're going to have a little bit of a ruling on that one.
Wait a second.
Like the Mozambique. That's Graceful. I trusted you.
How dareth he?
I feel betrayed. That's not very powerful.
Weapon of the Mozambique.
No, that's too powerful. Yeah, we'll get a ruling on that one, everybody. We'll get a ruling on that one. Don't worry. But for now, as the scoreboard says,
flabbergasted.
I don't know what to say, to be honest with you. Graceful. I mean, I think it might have been an accident again. Everybody, don't read too much into this.
I feel like this is
okay?
a similar situation to what Tyler found himself into just earlier on in the show, where you whip out your secondary.
He did not buy a secondary.
You haven't bought the P2020, and you're like, oh, crap, I've used that beak. The difference is Tyler recognized it, whereas we did not see the recognition there from Graceful. He said, you know what, screw it.
I think he did, because you know what I mean. He pulled the Mozam out, and then he was like, oh.
He paused after he got the kill.
He paused. He was like, no.
He looked at himself in disgust.
Or maybe he just went, get wrecked. Anyway, into our next round.
Will probably play on and see if they get the win in this round, and then maybe we'll see a ruling afterwards if they don't. Well,
Graceful has got a P2020 in his secondary now. You might notice that, everybody. I'm joking, Graceful. I know you obviously accidental mistakes. These kind of things do happen. The Pandas now going to be playing this side of the map. It looks like the staging side is going to be a little bit of a rotation actually coming out here from Ghost Gaming. It'll be interesting to see where their circle is going to be pulling, if it's going to be towards FURIA +1, or if it's going to be Ghost Gaming who will have control. But for now, it looks like a little bit of a wide flank, and it looks as if that circle might be pulling pretty central here, Dan.
It's crazy, isn't it, really, though, that, you know, it's a $10,000 tournament, which is a huge amount of money. If you compare that to how much we used to compete for back in the day when we played competitively, if someone went outside the rulebook back then, I'd be calling the admins immediately. I'd be saying, there is no way he uses the Mozambique. That's a free win for us. We're going 1-0 up. You know, that's the good heart of the community here. Like, these players, they all get along. They all want to have fun whilst they're trying to win this prize money. And in this round, whilst I'm blabbling, Ghost Gaming have been able to get some damage onto the other side, but not being able to keep 6 without damage of his own. So they've got to be careful, because FURIA, we know full well, as soon as they do that damage, they're going to try and engage in these fights. They want to force that bubble. They want to get the bubble out of Ghost Gaming's hand.
Madness is going to have the flatline in his hands for now. Only got 2 cells to work with, so might be trying to think about finding a little bit of a safe haven to pop those meds and get himself in a position where he can fight full HP towards the end of this round. But for now, you can see HP advantage certainly looks like it's in the hands of FURIA, as Graceful is just holding down this lane so effectively at the moment. Tech's going to get back to his teammate as well, but the good thing here for Ghost Gaming is they do have that bubble. So when they have to escape, when they have to push up a little bit more towards the center, they're going to have the opportunity to drop the bubble and play around it.
That's how they play around it. Are they going to actually find success? As I say, that Madness has taken so much damage, so the bubble is forced, and now we get our engagement finally.
Xeratricky gets the first knock onto Madness. Tech will be taken down, and it will be all up to 6. This time he can't get the job done either, as his 2 teammates will fall as well. And FURIA managed to tie things up now, and all of a sudden the rule book might be coming out here, Dan. We've all been in. Ruling has come in, I'm hearing. They won 3-0. Okay,
controversy!
So controversy. We're hearing this from production right now. It will be a 3-0 win, everybody, in the favor of Ghost Gaming. So apologies. Do you know what? Not apologies. You got some extra rounds of action in front of you. Naughty. Graceful.
Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. You've got to know the rule book. You wouldn't accidentally pick a legend, would you? But no, it's a shame. It's one of those things where it's a bad habit, isn't it? You're always going to whip out your secondary and use it, but you just haven't purchased it because you know, they're used to using the Mozambique. It's happened in previous tournaments, but not here today.
Looking for my rule book. Yeah, I was looking for my rule book. I didn't have one. I've just got a passport. I don't think that's contains any kind of Apex Legends information.
Don't ask me why.
I'm not going to ask why that's on your desk. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, save that one for Johnsonville later on. But for now, we're going to talk about the rounds that we have in front of us and the next map that we have in front of us, which is going to be Overflow. Dan, we're going to be going over to Overflow, and we're going to have an opportunity to see these 2 teams engage once again. And you have to say, from the way that last map did go, the close range battles were being won pretty convincingly by Ghost Gaming. It's no surprise to see them 3-0 victors, even though, you know, controversy and drama surrounded all of those rounds and the final result. But Ghost have been very good in those close range battles for the entirety of the time that we've seen them in arenas.
Yeah, they have, and I think, you know, it's a shame because if you look back at it, Graceful will probably feel like even if he had time to reload there, he probably wins that fight, but it's just one of those things. They have to chalk it up as a loss, move on to Overflow and say, what can we take from that entire round and that entire map? we've learned that without Gibraltar, we do leave ourselves a little bit vulnerable, and we're not necessarily getting the freedom that we might have expected with these quicker, faster legends that are going to allow us to get in and out of those fights. And Overflow, I would say, is another one of those maps where, you know, the Gibraltar bubble really can help out. And I do think that it is pretty key that you have one of those defensive legends, someone that can help you, whether it be, you know, dropping a bubble, whether the other abilities. I know Caustic's not really used in this scenario, but certainly a defensive legend to help out and to kind of feed off those more aggressive legends is always going to be very important.
Yeah, I think it's just... Gibby's 1v1 ability is just second to none as well. You know, you've got the fortified character in itself. You know, you can take a little bit of extra damage. You've got the gun shield, and you know what else could you want in a 1v1? It's very, very difficult. Yeah, you got a bit of a bigger hitbox. That's very difficult to say. A bit of a bigger
just give up
hitbox.
Oh, okay.
I'll never give up. Never give up. Yeah. John Cena told me that. But yeah, it's the best 1v1 character that you could possibly ask for in those kind of situations.
It is, and I think that the fact that we've not seen the Gibraltar picked is a surprise and maybe an oversight, I would say, from FURIA. I don't know if it's a case of no one is comfortable playing Gibraltar, because it is an entirely different style. Even though, yes, Gibraltar has his advantages, and yeah, he's so good as a 1v1 legend and in these fights, but you do have to play very differently because the hitbox is bigger. Not everyone knows necessarily how to play him. I certainly struggle when I play Gibraltar because I'm used to going for those flanks. I'm used to taking those angles. I do.
Selling us out.
And it's really difficult. But, you know, I'd rather be on a Wraith with a smaller hitbox, being able to be more aggressive, whereas if you play Gibby, you have to kind of just stick as an anchor sometimes.
And we're hearing in our ears, once again, from production, shout out to you. It's going to be Wraith, Path, and Octane once again for FURIA. So no Gibraltar this time for them. We'll have to see if that costs them or if it's going to be effective and they're just going to go for that full-on dive comp that it does seem like they're going for and didn't have the success with in the last round. We'll have to see if that fortune does change now as we head into our second map of the series. But with the way that Ghost kind of wiped the floor with them in that first one, Dan, it wouldn't surprise me to see them 2 up in the series by the time this is done.
It's how Ghost take momentum from that first map as well. Are they going to be feeling pretty confident about their individual fights now? So they're going to be very aggressive and quick to the middle of the map. Of course, we're going to be looking at our Pathfinders to begin with, because Pathfinders can zip so quickly into the middle of the map, and they really are going to be able to set the pace of how this round is going to go. Do they get aggressive? Do they try and get in the face of their opponents? Or do they just try and anchor and knuckle down and hold a position for the rest of their team?
Well, interestingly, at the moment, nobody's going to be hitting those grapples. It's going to be Pandxrz who's going to take a little bit of a wide flank. There is that bubble, and there is the advantage that Ghost Gaming do have. But here's, surprise, surprise, Tech bursting through that door, managing to get the first knock. Xeratricky will get the second as well, and Tech is going to hit some beautiful flatline shots as well as he hits that crouch spam to make sure that he's as difficult as target as possible to hit, and that's the perfect response. To be honest with you there, Dan, FURIA get the first round of the board.
Yeah, they've got a dartboard with a Mozambique on it at the moment, and they're just going to throw right in the center of the bullseye and be like, you know what, we hate the Mozambique, but we're still going to get wins without it, and absolutely shredding with the flatline. I love their selection as well. I know that people have their preference. Do you start with flatline? Do you start with wingman? Automatic weapons would always be my ideal choice in a map where you get these close engagements, but of course you do have those players who can play from a distance still on this map and can make a really big impact as well.
Did you see the slow-mo styling there from Graceful? That's impressive.
Very impressive, anyway, also worrying, but impressive.
FURIA on their way into this round, looking to go up by 2-0, maybe turn the fortunes back in their favor in this series a little bit, as Ghost Gaming will now have to answer back. You can see a little bit of a standoff here between Madness and Tech on either side of the doors, like two warring neighbors over who owns what part of the garden fence. But for now, it's going to be early damage being done. But look at Madness now, has to escape with his life, and the first knock is going to come in here from Pandxrz. Tech will fall.
Should be simple from this point, but look at the amount of damage that FURIA are outputting, but Madness will fall, so it's going to be a 2 versus 2, and there's going to be a battle in the bubble when the melees are going to come through, because the P2020 not quite hitting with the reload, trying to do the rest of the damage. FURIA able to reset ever so slightly, while 6 is going to be the last player, and FURIA able to come back from a player deficit there and still win the round. And that just shows, you know, if you're in the right places, if you do output an insane amount of damage, you can still win despite losing that first player.
And it's all about that bubble fight, right? Who's going to do the most damage in the bubble fight? And sometimes you could argue that maybe an M&K player is going to have a little bit more of an advantage, being able to hit those flicks and dodge and weave either side of that defensive wall, so to speak. And maybe that was the case in that round, as FURIA seemed to win the scrap inside. whereas the first knock did go down outside of it. So perfect start here for FURIA, and now they find themselves on map point, and this could be tied up at 1-1 this series.
It's one of those ones you just want to get it done here and now as well. You don't want to allow Ghost Gaming to get back in with a little bit of economy for round number 4 and give themselves a chance to really tie up this map. So instead, continue with the aggression that you've been able to find, forcing out that bubble, and they feel comfortable in those bubble fights that we've seen. They weren't able to get into 3v3 bubble fights previously.
Bubble fight goes down again. FURIA diving in once more. 6 is going to be the unfortunate victim this time. There's a Peacekeeper firing some shots off, but Tech is now last player alive, trying to survive. It's not going to happen, though. Ghost answer back. And once again, it's just a scrap. It's a brawl. It's a fist fight almost inside of that bubble, and this time Ghost come out on top.
And even though FURIA were the aggressors and got the original knock, it was actually the damage that was being done on the other side by Pandxrz, just with the Peacekeeper just absolutely slapping and hitting so much through the bubbles. I mean, actually, it might have been the Mastiff in the end, but either way, both of the Ghost Gaming members were there just colliding with the Mastiff, and it's so difficult when they're just peeking in and out of those bubbles and connecting with shot after shot after shot. Even when you've got the automatic weapons, it's very hard to respond to that. Great crossfire, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know, but Ghost Gaming certainly demonstrating a far more comfortable bubble fight there.
The zipline's going to be down here. Interesting route coming in from FURIA as well. Maybe looking to get a bit of a quick angle onto the players moving up. They're going to be spotted out, though. Tech's going to have an opportunity maybe to flank here. But with the fact that this is match point here for Ghost Gaming, you can see maybe they're playing it a little bit slower, or maybe they're just looking for an opportunity to strike. Xeratricky's going to be taken down. Wonderful play coming in here from Ghost. And now ImMadness and Pandxrz have the opportunity to pop some batteries as well, as the knock is still down.
Yeah, they're all back up to a full complement of health now, so this is very much a 2 versus 3 that is going to be tough for FURIA, but Graceful doing his part to try and do as much damage with Mastiff. Flatline then comes out and whipped to the back pocket, but FURIA now down to just 1, make that none. Ghost Gaming tied up 2-2, and as I said previously, just 2 rounds ago, FURIA don't want to let this one slip through their fingers. They don't want to give the economic advantage back to Ghost Gaming, but they've done just that. They did, however, try to get aggressive in both of these rounds, but just unfortunately, it seems like something has clicked once more for Ghost Gaming. They're hitting their shots. Is this something that you mentioned as well in the post-game of our last series? Sometimes it just comes down to who is hitting those shots, who is actually on and firing in the round. It can make such a difference between a player who hits 2 Mastiff shots compared to a player on the other side who only hits the 1. Yeah,
it's just sometimes it is simple, right? Sometimes easy to overcomplicate these kind of things. When it's in a bubble fight, is who hits the shots. There's an example of it once again, and it has been pretty much an example so far throughout every single round. As you can see, Ghost Gaming now actually going to take a slightly different approach to things this time, as Pandxrz is going to take a wide wrap and pick up some meds for his team and his teammates. So this time we might see, and we will see, a slower round for sure. Flatline in the hands of Tech this time. I think I saw a car SMG actually in the hands of one of the Ghost Gaming players. The 6 is going to have to back up. Good damage being exchanged though by ImMadness with the flatline in his hands, and we're back to a little bit of a standoff here. Graceful though is the player to watch. You can see he's trying to make a little bit of a flank here for FURIA.
And if he can get that initial damage, if he can be the initiator and relay that information to the rest of the team, that could be the round for FURIA. Xeratricky a little bit further back than the rest of the squad right now, but of course as Octane can eject the stim and join them very quickly. But this is one of the slower rounds that we've had, and maybe says a lot about the point that we are in this map. 2-2. This is a very important round to try and take the lead.
Tech just trying to bob and weave, use that head glitch to his advantage. There's going to be a care package down. Looks like FURIA have managed to pick that one up. It was a Mastiff, I'm pretty sure, that was picked up to go alongside the flatline. Good shots coming in here from Xeratricky as well. Just trying to use that HCOG to hit the shots, but there's that car I was talking about. Hitting some big shots, and there's the first knock from it as well. That thing shreds up close, and you can see a perfect example of it there. FURIA now trying to push in. Graceful with the flatline in hand, trying to even the numbers, but 6 is going to pick up 1 as well, and now Tech left in. He's on his own in a 1v1, and he'll clutch up with the Mastiff again. The knockdown shield being the influence.
Surprised Ghost Gaming weren't able to close that one out. They got the initial damage, they managed to force FURIA back, but it's how FURIA responded with the aggression. And again, this comes down to their legend selection and being able to quickly re-engage with fights or quickly isolate any members of Ghost who might be exposed ever so slightly. They really jumped on Pandxrz after he had done that initial damage, found themselves in the 2v2. They played around the knockdown shield perfectly, and it really was quite an exquisite round from FURIA, and Tech just making sure he hits that last shot, which was incredibly important and gives them map point once more.
So FURIA now have the second opportunity, like you say, to close things out and tie it up in the series. Last time they let it slip through their fingers, and Ghost Gaming managed to Onset back in quite some style. Great shots from Xeratricky there. Already 64 damage across the board onto ImMadness, who's probably thinking, hey, come on, buddy, chill. We've only just got into this round. Panda's now in a position maybe to strike as well. You can see that Xeratricky and Tech are going to be above him. He does have that grapple available. Maybe thinking about just jumping up there and hitting some massive shots to create the opening.
Instead, he's just going to actually move his way up there without the grapple. But look at the shreds from Tech. Pan gets caught out, and Tech will get out of dodge after getting the initial knock. But now they've got a 3 versus 2 situation.
Yeah, Pandxrz goes down, so Tech managing to play around his teammate. Here comes Graceful as well. 6 is going to be trying to hit the flatline shots with that hip fire. Now he's left on his own. He's going to have all of FURIA dropping on his head, and FURIA tie up the series at 1-1 with the map win here on Overflow. But it was pretty impressive from them, I have to say. They did a better job there for sure in hitting those shots in those bubble fights. It was the FURIA show.
I think we were potentially robbed of a comeback opportunity in the initial map because of the Mozambique situation, where I still think the 1v1 could have been won if he had had a P2020 there. So I think it's quite right that FURIA come back in, win map 2, and show that we've got a series on our hands. This isn't just going to be an easy, breezy situation for either of these teams. We should go all the way between the two, because it seems like what makes one team more comfortable on one map is uncomfortable for them on the other. The bubbles are playing a huge part, of course, and even though FURIA, they seem to find a way to initiate those bubble fights and actually take advantage, even though they don't have the Gibby, there was a big fight back from Ghost Gaming where they worked out, okay, there is going to be a lot of aggression, we just need to watch our angles, we need to use shotguns a little bit more. But then again, we saw the response from FURIA where they said, look, let's try and isolate the Gibby, and if we can take that initial fight, give ourselves the advantage, or take a Pathfinder that's going to be aggressive as well, just give ourselves that 3v2. But an excellent map 2 ties us up to 1-1, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next.
Well, map 3 will be up right after this break. The series is tied up at 1-1. Who will take the lead? We'll find out in just a few minutes.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UMG... Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Reflections. I tried to take your job for a second there. I don't know why I did it.
No, you do it well. And you do it well, Onset. Just, you know, I literally have, like, for this entire 2-day broadcast, which might be 16 hours or 20 hours, I have, like, 5 minutes of it. So let me shine a little bit, if you don't mind, with... You and Gaskin are already beautiful, is it? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to UMG Champions Apex Legends Arena. I'm done. Anyways, we've seen a great series. We really have, man. And you know what? FURIA. Hey, look, this is one thing. You can make mistakes, but it's all about how you overcome them. What did Rocky say that one time? Like, if you get knocked down hard enough, you get back up easy enough? I don't know if that's what he said. But I tell you what, Onset, FURIA got back up and they strike back in map 2.
They certainly did. My apologies. I don't know where I thought.
No, it's okay. Hey, Onset, it's okay. I deserve it
for some reason. But then it came back and I was like, wow, Reflections with us. Everything's already better. It's already better. But you're quite right. I think it's been a testament to FURIA, because I thought after that first map, they really didn't look like they had any cohesion about them. To be honest with you, it was pretty comfortable for Ghost Gaming. But that map was the complete opposite, right? It was a little bit back and forth for a few moments, and there was a match point that kind of slipped through their fingers. But when the second one came around, they got the map point on the board, and that's what it's all about.
They did, and again, great recovery from FURIA. This is a matchup that I would be pretty sad to see it end in a way of 3-0, so I'm glad this does have the legs to go the distance. We're moving into Phase Runner, Gaskin, and I'm excited for this one because of a point that the both of you brought up earlier, and that's about Graceful and his ability, you know, to potentially get on flanks. And I think when it comes to Phase Runner, it is a bigger map. It could be a bit tough to flank, but this does give the possibility to maybe allow him to flex, you know, his muscles in order to flank. So we'll see if he's gonna be able to do that. You excited to watch him on, or at least do you think he'll have an impact on Phase Runner?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Apex Legends $10,000 invitation. Sorry, I just felt left out. I really did. Like, you guys had this whole thing. I was sat there, like, really awkwardly being like, what's going on? Am I even part of this show anymore?
It was his fault, not mine.
No, it's fine. No, I just wanted to be involved. That's fine. Graceful, yes, he is incredible, and I was alluding to it earlier that he wants those larger maps where you do have more freedom to flank. So he's going to be the key factor for FURIA. We saw it, like, very minimalistically at times during that second map, and he had the opportunity to do so, but this is going to be a more extreme version where it's like a far larger map to give him far more freedom to run, but that also leaves a lot of risk involved. That means there is a massive opportunity. If he's spotted out, he can very much be dived on, so that Q is going to be really important to get out of dodge.
And Onset, it seems clearly FURIA is very talented when it comes to slaying out. I was hugely impressed with Tech. Like, Tech is that Pathfinder. Like, he was not scared to poke in and get that damage, but For Ghost, I think they're going to be more comfortable in Phase Runner because they can slow things down, and I think that's always been a strong suit of Ghost, specifically speaking in Arenas tournaments. And I think Phase Runner, if I'm not mistaken, is one of their stronger maps, one of their strongest maps here. So I expect them to take a 2-1 lead. FURIA, though, if they can take this map, there's a good chance they can win this series. Obviously, I'm going to head out. You boys have already taken the show anyways. Onset, Gaskin, take it away.
I'm so sorry, by the way, Reflections. I didn't mean to do that. I just, I just autopiloted on. We were on last, and then I just want to be you. I just want to be you. And Dan just wants to take the mick out of me. It's fine. It's a natural order of things. It's fine. Right. Let's talk about the series, though, again, because we keep getting sidetracked a little bit here. But I think it's a great point. I think Tech's been playing really well on those close range encounters, and it's probably due to the fact that he spends a lot of time in the range as well, 1v1ing people. You see it always on Twitter. Any controller players want to play 1v1. He's always looking to hone those skills, those close range battles, and you're seeing it in effect there, Dan. The evidence of the practice paying off.
Yeah, I think that you put yourself in a situation where you've got to, again, play to your strengths. And we know what both of these teams are comfortable and are strong at doing now. And we've already seen with Legend Selection, it's going to be two entirely different playstyles. FURIA maybe took a little bit of time to realize how they wanted to approach playing against a Gibby team without a Gibby. But now they found that if they just jump into that bubble and get into the engagement, it seemed like, well, 3 times out of 5 they were able to win it, and that's enough to actually take the rounds and win the match. So now we'll have to see whether it's going to be slightly different on an elongated and slightly larger map. But already you can see Tech trying to get up close and personal with Pandxrz.
Contact with
trying to find some awkward angles to play from as well. Unfortunately, Tech's going to be spotted out here. It's going to be one player who's down in those 2 trucks who's putting that damage down. Tech's going to have to back up. Pandxrz is looking to move up and get a little bit cheeky with the 30-30 repeater in his hand to crack some shields, but for now, it's going to be Ghost Gaming who all retreat towards each other. Already you can see resources being burnt between the 2 teams as well. Tech going to have to pop a syringe. Not sure if he's got any cells to play with as well. So Tech already down as far as HP is concerned. Pandxrz going to have to pop that Phoenix kit. So you feel like the next damage done is going to be influential, and it's Madness who's taking a lot of that damage.
Yeah, so Pandxrz has to fly in to help, and Pandxrz just gets the last kill, the last bit of damage, and that means that Ghost Gaming do have the initial knock onto Tech, who probably thought he was going to at least trade out, with Pandxrz now also taking the damage and leaves Graceful in a 1 versus 2.
1 versus 2, but does have the flatline against the 30-30. Maybe you'll have the opportunity to clutch up here. The Gibraltar will be absolutely dropped, but Pandxrz has got full HP, but there's the P2020. Not enough to win it in that situation. Ghost Gaming clutch up, even with a big effort coming in from Graceful.
Might have won it over Mozambique, but, at least he's got the right gun this time.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
We'll never know. You know what? I'm just going to point out that I'm so happy Mozambique is banned. I'm just going to, I never thought I'd ever say those words on any Apex broadcast ever since the initial release, but I do think that it is very important for the state of arenas that we're not using Mozambique, and it really has created far more exciting rounds. The P2020 is the perfect sort of side weapon as well to just whip out in those last minute scenarios, and you've really got to be so precise with those shots. But in 1 versus 2, he gave a really good effort there, but ultimately it was just Tech going down in the initial engagement and not being able to get the trade. But it was the quick assisting work from the rest of Ghost Gaming. As soon as they saw a member under pressure, they dived straight into the fight to help.
Graceful with a little bit of tech as well. I'm not talking about the player. A little bit of a punch boosting to get him up the map a little bit quicker. That line in the hands here of Graceful. We'll see if he can do something this time to maybe create the opening for FURIA, but I'm going to stop saying Graceful with the flatline, by the way, because it's almost as if it's more of a surprise if Graceful didn't have a flatline in any game mode. I'm pretty sure he spawns with it, any map. He just has it.
Has one under his pillow as well. There's a lot of accusations that being thrown around, and just don't walk into his house without announcing yourself, because that's how he defends himself. So FURIA, they are going to be looking to try and engage in something here. They've taken control of the majority of the middle of the map, but Pandxrz taking the high ground to try and be a sneaky beaver once more, but Tech is right there to try and do damage. Does Pandxrz know he's there? That's the real question.
Does he dare swing up on him? That's the question. Looks like he's going to be holding the line, and he just didn't really do anything there. Tech got caught out, just wasted a little bit too much time, but there's the exchange coming in. Ghost Gaming with some good shots from height here. It's Madness who's trying to get the finish onto Graceful. Last player alive is going to be Xeratricky. 6 is falling behind him. P2020 just to give some warning shots, as it will be cleaned up, and that'll be Ghost Gaming. Once again, FURIA, picking things up. Well, that was Ghost Gaming got that round on the board, it was not.
I mean, you're confused, production's confused.
It was Ghost Gaming, excuse me. It was Ghost Gaming.
There we go, right back on cue. But again, it was Tech who got taken down in the early stages there. I mean, he was in such a good position where he probably thought he was going to be able to expose Pandxrz, who was just above him, getting some shots down. But then, unfortunately, he gets spotted out and he's not in a place to retreat, and Pandxrz takes full advantage of that, and, well, everything just played out following that initial knock for them. But Ghost Gaming should have taken advantage of a 3 versus 2. They do so, and that is always how the cookies should crumble after you get the first one. We'll see whether they can make this a quick 3-0 sweep to take a 2-1 lead, though. They're going to get aggressive with the zipline to try and take the middle of the map.
So after disappointing map number 2, Ghost Gaming do have the opportunity here to put themselves up 2-1 in the series. Graceful just going to be pre-firing the predictable angles, if you like, the more common angles of players trying to peek. Not making any contact quite so far. Here comes Pandxrz, though, and look at this. Tech's been caught out, has to retreat to his teammate, but look at that. Xeratricky is there to give him the cover fire. So even though Pandxrz was trying to make a play there to get that opening pick, it looked like Tech was more than aware that he had the cover from his teammate as he overextended himself.
And even though, you know, I pointed out that Tech's been the first to die both times, as the Pathfinder, sometimes it is your responsibility to be the initiator in those fights anyway, because you can get out of it. As I say that, this time it's Xeratricky who gets taken down first as the Octane, leaving Graceful and Tech in a 2 versus 3. And Tech, again, just taking this high ground to try and be sneaky with an angle and hoping to catch one of the Ghost members out and try and stop this from being a 3-0 sweep.
Here comes the push, though, but it looks things. Pandxrz is trying to push up, and Tech's trying to hold the cross here. You can see he's just baiting Graceful, but now the bubble's going to come in, and where do they focus that fire? That's the question here. Tech has to be so disciplined in how he tries to play this. Pandxrz with that wide flank, and it looks like at the moment Ghost are playing this really well, making sure they're taking no risks whatsoever.
That's where you can be punished, right? If you take a risk, if you do something stupid just because you know you've got the player advantage thinking you should win, and all it takes is for one player to step out of line and then suddenly it's a 2 versus 2 and it's very winnable for FURIA. But Ghost Gaming, they have the map and they have the lead on the line here. Going 2-1 up into map 4 would be so good and give them that confidence boost that they might need. Especially when you look at this map and the design of it and how we thought that Graceful would be able to really expose Ghost Gaming, but just not really had the freedom to do so.
So Tech just holding down this high ground for as long as he possibly can. Gonna have to climb back up as he just slipped off for a few seconds. But Ghost Gaming know they've got the numbers here. I like how they're playing this, to be honest with you. They have zone, they have numbers, they know at some point the FURIA will have to make the move towards them, and they've got every single angle covered. They're all set up on the head glitches. It should really be a Ghost Gaming round, unless something dreadful happens, but you never know here in Apex Legends. And it takes one big spray coming in, and Ghost Gaming can find themselves down, and that's exactly what happens. Graceful with the big shots manages not only to get the kill, but also to survive. 6 is going to be, unfortunately, for the FURIA side in position to take things down, and then Graceful just doesn't have the time to get the battery off, and Ghost Gaming will manage to clutch up. They will win your map number 3 and got 2-1 in the series.
I understand the idea for Ghost, like they played it so carefully and slowly for ages that they thought, well, you know, I'm a Wraith, I can queue out, but even though that queue got changed so long ago from being an instant kind of safety net and that slight delay of a second that it is now, it can really punish you if you don't time it correctly. But it didn't matter in the end. That's the matter of fact. Ghost Gaming had that extra player. They had that freedom to kind of throw it away a little bit, but they were patient. They did play it correctly. They didn't want to do anything too silly, because if you try and overexpose yourself to the point where you leave one player vulnerable to being jumped on and teamed in a 2 versus 1, if they have time to reset, if they can maybe get that kill without taking too much damage, suddenly it's a very even 2 versus 2 fight that may be thrown away. And a round like that gets thrown away very much won't be working out for you and your mental, so you have to ensure you play it slowly, calmly, and it also shows that Ghost Gaming respecting FURIA as well. They know full well that FURIA are going to be a difficult opposition, and they have to take these advantages when they are presented to them.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit unfortunate there at the end as well for FURIA. I think they got that knock, and then the Pathfinder kind of grappled in to try and help, right? To try and play as a 2, see if they could, again, single out one player. But as he kind of landed from the grapple, Graceful was forced to jump into the void, and then Path's kind of standing there going, all right, cool, I'm on my own. I'm a walking fridge as it goes, but unfortunately now with you jumping into the void, which obviously Graceful had to do, it just created a very simple situation for Ghost Gaming to have to kind of convert to make sure that they won that round. So a little bit unfortunate, maybe, but at the same time, Ghost Gaming played all their advantages, as you said, to the team.
Walking fridges exist in real life, because realistically, this could be something that I would like to invest in.
Yeah.
And I know there are silly things to invest in life, but I feel like a walking fridge would very much succeed.
The kind of thing you'd text me that you bought. You'd be like, oh, I bought a walk-in fridge. And I'd be like,
I'd go down to the shop to buy some milk, and I'd be like, oh my god, there's a walk-in fridge, I could put my milk inside, and that would be my purchase. Anyway, maybe
you can do that with a normal fridge, Dan, to be honest with you. I don't think it has to walk. You could just put your milk inside of a fridge.
But what if I didn't have to go downstairs and my fridge came up to me? See? Now you understand my reasoning here.
Powerful. Let's talk about the series layout though, because we've got Thermal Station to come as Ghost Gaming now find themselves one map away from closing things out, and with Phase Runner being a comfortable 3-0 to them, Dan, and that being a little bit of a slower paced map that we do have in arenas, you feel like Thermal Station maybe it's going to go their way again? But I said that about map 2 and then FURIA 1, so I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite sure how this was going to go.
I think it was Thermal Station where we really focused on how Graceful played as Wraith. A few tournaments last time we saw these teams, these players, whatever. When Graceful was over on another team, it doesn't matter. He was on this map and he was amazing as Wraith because he really found those angles and he got into fights, he queued out, he did the damage, he gave that info, and then the rest of the team, they just jumped on it. But is it going to be the same with FURIA? Like, I know that this isn't their roster, he is just filling in at this point. Is there that natural chemistry where they are quick enough to react to what he's doing? Now, I'm not saying that he is the only player that can make a difference. Of course, that we know full well that FURIA as a roster in general are going to be terrifying to play against, but the Wraith is that initiator, or certainly is going to be on this map, so it does put a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of Graceful here.
Yeah, especially with the series as it is, right? You're more inclined to take risks if you're up by 1 in the series, if you're up by 2 in the series, and you think, hey, I can throw a couple of rounds away here and we can kind of feel out our opponents. But Ghost aren't really giving him the opportunity to do that. Plus, I will throw this in. Graceful playing with his full roster and Kungana playing this style with Wraith, he knows his 2 teammates are playing in cohesion with him. They know exactly what he's doing. When you're filling in, it becomes a little bit more difficult to do because you don't know if you've got those lines of sight covered. You don't know if you're going to be able to get back to your teammates, what positions they're playing. So it's a little bit kind of being played on the fly here by FURIA and for Graceful in the way that he does like to play. But enough about that. We'll have to see if it does work here as we head into our map number 4.
And this is going to be a map which is, of course, a must-win on the side of FURIA. But as for Ghost Gaming, you could argue the same, because if this goes to a Game 5, that's such a good opportunity for FURIA to say, look, we've taken them to a Game 4 at this point, let's not fear them. Let's not allow them to be able to dictate the pace of how these rounds are going. Because I think for the most part, Ghost Gaming have dictated the pace. I think a lot of that comes down to having the Gibraltar and being able to slow down or speed up the game at will. However, for FURIA, having these 3 really quick legends to jump in and out of fights, they can just ignore the fact there's a potential bubble on the other side and run at the other team. It's definitely a strategy we've seen happen multiple times throughout these arena tournaments, just whether it be an Octane bounce pad, whether it be a Pathfinder zip, just get as close and personal as you can in the early stages, and then try and take advantage of the gun skill.
Well, FURIA already managing to make a quick rotation here. They have control of Dome, which, as we know, is pretty much the power position to have, unless we do see that slightly awkward pull away towards the center. Is more often than not is going to pull towards FURIA. So they look like they have positional advantage for sure. Xeratricky took a little bit of damage on that cross, so you can say maybe HP is going to be in the favor of their opposition. But for now, FURIA are going to have to hold the line, so to speak, with Tech making a little bit of a play that I kind of like, taking it off angle. It's one thing to sit in positions down, but you still got to look to do damage onto the opponent as they move.
Energy ammo here.
Yeah, you can't just be watching nothing, right? You have to be at least outputting damage to make them fear to push you into your angles. You almost herd them into a scenario where they're going to be uncomfortable and they're not able to push as freely. But as you mentioned, FURIA have the better side of the circle. Ghost are going to be the ones that have to push towards FURIA. And that's going to mean that as long as FURIA are watching those angles and they are actually dealing that damage, they are hitting that shots, then Ghost are going to be scared to push up until the circle kind of forces them to, or until they take initiative to just jump and move at the same time. Madness could be a very important factor here, as that Wraith could queue on in, get close and personal, get underneath them in the donut, and then just make them worry a little bit.
Panda's doing a good job with the 30-30 as well. That heavy ammo is going to be enough to open those doors as well, as we've seen a couple of times. See if you can get a little bit of chip damage as they try and move up, as they try and make that push. But for now, it is just a game of patience. It's almost a big game of chicken here between the two teams. Who's going to peek first? Who's going to give away the opportunity to do the damage to allow a push to come in? Panda's in a little bit of a tough spot here, though. You can see he's just trying to play the head glitch around this box, but in a few seconds' time, that head glitch is going to be disappearing as the zone closes behind.
FURIA just biding their time, trying to use the circle to their advantage, waiting until the moment where Ghost are somewhat exposed. There isn't going to be a portal available. There's not going to be any purchase that's going to allow them to portal their way in. So it's going to be able just about planning the execution here for Ghost. When do we go and how do we go? Where do we bubble? May see a bubble just tossed into the middle, but at the moment Madness is trying to, I think, just gain information. And now here's that cue, but finally he goes backwards. It surprises me. It looks like this is going to have to be a bubble situation then.
Yeah, I think he was aware that Graceful had taken that off angle, and so is Xeratricky. So any damage that was done, he could have been knocked extremely quickly with a little bit of coordinated crossfire. Now the bubble comes down. This is the play they need to make, and unfortunately it's not going to work because there is Graceful. Six gets taken down. Tech is just holding the outside of the bubble. The rest of the players are just funneling in, and it really is as simple as that for FURIA. Very, very simple hold for them, but it's one thing to have a simple hold down. It's another to execute, and again, it was that aggression pushing up and not making it comfortable for Ghost Gaming at any point.
Yeah, really have to be so quick and take advantage of any sort of ring pull that is going to go your way. And even though Ghost Gaming, they tried to delay it, tried to assess how they were going to push in, I really feel like they weren't proactive enough. If anything, they just allowed FURIA to sit there and wait. I personally would have liked to have seen a play being made, whether that be, you know, all of them just bubbling and trying to attempt to run through, whether it be the Wraith going underneath with a Q to try and distract and maybe try and force some sort of push that maybe the rest of the two could have jumped on. I don't know. I just feel like they kind of allowed it to play out the way FURIA wanted it to play out.
And this time it's going to be a little bit of a different position. That's because of the fact that the circle is going to be very, very central here. You can see Dome is in, but with the circle knowledge these players have, and that we all have from watching multiple arenas tournaments now, we'll be pulling away from that. So central structure is going to be important, maybe to hold down. You can see the Ghosts are inside of it as now Madness is going to be using the protection of those doors to hold the angles. But Graceful, once again, you can see just lurking around the outside, seeing if he can make a little bit of a move here. Tech is going to be holding that off angle. Only 14 damage done.
Let's go this way.
In exchange, going to take a little bit more himself.
Contact with hostile.
Ghost Gaming, oh, they're going to try and make the play. They're trying to go outside and take advantage of maybe one player being left on their own. Pandas will get the initial knock onto Tech, and FURIA find themselves in a 2 versus 3, just like that. That's what I'm being talking about. Being proactive, taking the initiative and trying to do some damage, and really just trying to force the opponents into an uncomfortable spot.
Well, at least Xeratricky's managed to get back to Graceful here. We've seen these two almost manage to clutch up from a similar situation before, but Ghost Gaming played the numbers extremely well. Six is going to make that cross. Madness has to be extremely careful here. Graceful's going to be peeking in a few seconds, but Pandas will get the initial knock in the 2v3, and they will close out very, very convincingly as well, making sure that Graceful doesn't do any extra damage. Ghost Gaming then tying things up with 1-1 now, but it was all about that play, Dan. The decision to bubble out and make that aggressive play onto the solo.
It's just about getting that information quickly of who's where, and as soon as you realize there is one player who's going to be on their own, you have to just jump on them. And in that situation, it was Tech, he was caught out, and I love that. I love the kind of the initiation of that fight, just being able to be so confident as a team to push out, even though you're funneling yourself through an area where you could be grenaded, you could be shot, utilizing that bubble to best effect to ensure that you don't take as much damage. Love what I've seen from Ghost Gaming, and at least they tie this one up. They're not going to allow FURIA to get out of control.
It's going to be FURIA who get the advantage with that jump pad as far as position is for this map, and for this circle, I should say, excuse me, managing to beat their opponents to the punch. But look at this, the bubble now going to be playing off, and Xeratricky's caught in a corner here. He's got nowhere to go. Xeratricky is being focused. And it looks like Madness will have that knock cancelled out as 2 now 4 with a Graceful versus Madness. It's a P2020 versus a Flatline, and we all know that the P2020 ain't going to win that fight too many times. And I mean, a burst of action there, Dan. FURIA come out on top at the end of it, though.
Yeah, I think Ghost Gaming again thought that they were able to really single out one of the players and take advantage of it. And Tech was, even though back against the wall, he did so much damage to delay his knock. Like, I think they were surprised by the amount of damage he was actually outputting as a single player. And very much the teammates were so quick to join him as well to ensure that it wasn't going to be an easy wipe for Ghost Gaming. And now FURIA go on to map point. They are 1 point away from taking us to a map number 5, the first time we will see it here today in the tournament. This has been our closest game, and I mean, for good reason as well. We've got such fantastic players, as it's just going to be a battle across the zip line.
Yeah, it looks like FURIA came out on top of that one. You can see Six is already forced to drop the bubble. They're trying to get inside, but Tech's trying to put the pressure on as well. He'll manage to escape for now, so it looks like we will have a little bit of a standoff as Ghost Gaming managed to finally retreat and get inside of the dome. Now we have a position very similar to what we've seen previously between the teams. You have two players, or one player I should say, Xeratricky on top of the dome. The rest of Ghost Gaming inside. Tech's going to come and join him, quite rightly so, because just for a second there, Xeratricky was in a position where if he got jumped on, he would have been dead.
Yeah, I think that's good that they've recognized something that had happened previously to them, where one player got singled out when they were kind of inside a building, and they don't want to allow it to happen again. As here comes the move from Ghost Gaming. They're trying it once more. They do get a little bit of damage, but it looks like there's a better response from FURIA this time.
Yeah, FURIA in a much better position. There's a Mastiff, though, that's doing damage. Xeratricky's going to take the most of the brunt of that. There's a boot, and there's a flatline as well. Tech now trying to push in. Xeratricky going to be last player alive. It's a 2v1, but he does have shields to play with, but it's not enough this time. Xeratricky falls, and Ghost Gaming tie it up at 2-2.
FURIA had such a good opportunity to win that round as well. They had the high ground, they had arguably the advantage, but lack of bubble. I mean, it just changes the dynamic of everything. The fact that Ghost Gaming have always got this bubble to work with round after round, and they are using it perfectly to be able to get out of these sticky situations, whereas if FURIA were in that scenario where they're inside a building, they don't have that get out of jail free card, aside from potentially maybe a portal if that were to be purchased, but we know that that's not going to necessarily be the best use of credits from the Wraith. So instead, they do find themselves where they have to be the team who is going to be on top, and even though they found themselves on top there, FURIA, unfortunately, Ghost Gaming on the other side just have too much power when it comes to those bubble fights.
A little bit of standoff across from each other at the start of this round as well. And this is a really important round. You can see this is the first time that Pandxrz is going to be able to get that car in his hands. We saw what a difference maker it was when the two teams went up against each other, but ImMadness is going to have the Mastiff Old Trusty in the hands. Tries to push in onto Graceful as well. Graceful's kind of soloed out here, but great shots coming in from Graceful. The rest of Ghost Gaming is there to engage, to give ImMadness the opportunity to back off, because it was Graceful who was winning that fight pretty comfortably.
FURIA stuck inside, and this was my worry. Now, they can't get out of this building. They don't have that escape bubble. Graceful, if he has a Q, could maybe be the initiator, could Q out to try and be a distraction and allow the rest of the team to push. It's about where Ghost Gaming position themselves, because you can't just watch one exit, of course, because then you leave the opportunity to the other team to just exit for free, but then you leave yourself exposed to potentially being singled out if you, as a single player, are just watching one of the doorways. So you have to take the correct angles. It's not easy to play, but if you play it correctly, you do have the advantage.
Picking up a Peacekeeper as well from a care package is going to be very, very impressive for them, but FURIA have managed to escape by the looks of things. You saw the grapple out coming from Tech. And just those few seconds where they had the information that one side was free, they've managed to break free, so to speak. ImMadness goes down as well, so what a play this actually is from FURIA. Now they're going to try and jump in onto Graceful to get the trade. They will, but here comes the troops now. Pandxrz trying to hold the door with his vault in his hand. Good shots coming in. There's a little bit of flesh damage, but where is Six while all this is happening? Is he on the flank? Big shots with the Mastiff. Huge shots with the Mastiff. In fact, and it doesn't matter, Six, you can take your time because Pandxrz is there to get the damage done.
It was so important he was doing that damage as well. He was holding, allowing Six to get the bat off, because Six took that initial damage in the 1v1. He found himself inside after he was so quick to throw the bubble down, by the way. As soon as he saw the knock, bubble, bam, down, take the fight, recognizing there was one player on his own in the middle. They even it up 2 versus 2, but then the amount of damage we saw from the inside just to keep them back from batting up was so important here from Pandxrz. If he wasn't able to do that, it could have been a very different round, but really demonstrating you can hold a doorway so successfully with an automatic weapon.
Very, very impressive. I have to say, just having the confidence and the wherewithal to know that he had to hold that position, but now we're going to just see an absolute rumble in the jungle between these two teams. It'll be Tech with the Mastiff in hand, players being knocked left, right, and center, and this is how you respond if you are FURIA. You get that first knock. You don't play the slow game anymore. As ImMadness has a little peek above. Now, will they drop onto this, or are they going to allow that res to come in? So fake res for now. Xeratricky going to take a little bit of damage. That one shot from ImMadness might be enough. Or will it be? Xeratricky drops. Six gets the knock. ImMadness now looking to go a little bit crazy and looking to go a little bit bonkers for his team. He should win this. Tech's flying in. Can't connect with the melee this time, but he's got all the time in the world. And Ghost Gaming managed to clutch up, and ImMadness wins the series and wins the game for his team.
Such a surprise, isn't it? They had a 3 versus 2 FURIA, and that res kept being tapped. They were trying to bait it, Eventually, the bait was bitten, and the fish came flying down, and the fish got hit hard by the shotgun. And then at the end, of course, just being able to do the amount of damage he was doing was incredible. And really impressed with how Ghost Gaming played it. Massive respect to FURIA, and condolences, of course, for the fact that they got sent down to the lower bracket, but really impressed with how they actually came back into it. They offered us a series that's been the closest so far as well, Reflections, and that's what we want to see. As neutrals, we want to see close series go down to the wire, but not quite to map 5 on this occasion.
I think it comes back to what me and Onset were saying at the beginning, Gaskin, is the fact that when it comes down to Group C, we think these two teams are kind of the outliers. And I think FURIA, even though they do drop down to the loser, the loser bracket of Group C, it doesn't mean that they're down and out. Their comebacks were insane. Their ability to remain composed in certain situations were phenomenal. The only outlier in the series, obviously, was FaZe Runner, but Ghost played that beautifully, beautifully well. But regardless, though, Onset, for me, FURIA showed that, again, they are number 2 in Group C, and it wouldn't surprise me if they move forward tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just those small moments, right? And we've got to remember, this is FURIA +1. This isn't the full lineup, so there is going to be those little bits of teething problems, so to speak, with finding a player and finding how they want to play. Graceful, an amazing player, but plays a playstyle which relies on his 2 teammates being in positions to allow him to do so. So there's going to be a few battles that they don't win, but Graceful was actually doing a huge amount of work in this game as well. It wasn't like he was a passenger whatsoever. But Ghost Gaming, this was the biggest play, I think, from Pandxrz, though, of the game. This was the one that really did win them the kind of the confidence battle, if you want to call it that, in that round. Sure. Managing to hold the line with the Mastiff was so vital for them.
Yeah, Mastiff, his plays were incredible, and you expect that from Pandxrz, you really do. ImMadness in this final play, though, my lord, holding his ground and clutching up like he did. Cool, calm, and collective. Tech knew in that moment, look, I'm in trouble. ImMadness knew in his positioning, he is most likely going to clutch it up, and he did. That's a big win for Ghost, in my opinion. Like I said, I think they're the outlier, and they're looking to once again be on top. You know, Ghost, they've made it before into Grand Finals, and they're looking to do much the same here. Would have loved to have seen Encore Gaskin, but we just don't get to that point, and it is what it is. Speaking of which, let's talk about Thermal Station a little bit more. I did see a 30-30 repeater come out for Pandxrz, but then Ghost ended up changing up things. Why do you think that was?
I think the 30-30 repeater can do a lot of damage in a poke war, but then they realized that FURIA were getting extremely aggressive at times, and I feel like that's what they wanted to do to try and counter the bubble, was to try and force the bubble as early as possible to take away these scenarios where Ghost Gaming had the get out of jail free card. When they were stuck in a building, they were able to bubble out. If they had a team above them, they were able to bubble out, and it worked out on both of those occasions that they won those engagements. Now, I don't want to say it's all down to legend selection as the reason why Ghost Gaming have won, but I do think the Gibraltar paid, it was so important that you had the Gibraltar on your side there. Without it, there was some occasions where I feel like they would have been really struggling.
Yeah, you don't see Gibby not being utilized. You see Gibby normally as one of the main staples. Then you'll have an Octane, then you'll have a Pathfinder. Sometimes you don't have the Octane. We've seen Ash in place. We've seen Wraith in place. But regardless, though, not having a Gibby, especially on Thermal Station Onset, that's a big loss and something that is almost, I don't know, impossible to overcome, but I would love to see FURIA maybe change up their strategy moving forward. Thing is, though, is anybody comfortable playing Gibby to the point against like Ghost or against the other players or the other teams that they're going to be going against? You think FURIA needs to pick up a Gibby, especially for Thermal Station moving into their next series?
I would suggest so. I think Gibby just gives you a get out of jail free card with the res as well. If you get knocked, you don't have a Gibby bubble. Like, how are you going to get the player back onto their feet without being able to hold the line? It's just done. You're not going to be able to unless that player is right next to someone, which is unlikely with everyone trying to take angles. I always talk about the 1v1 ability as well. Like, how many Gibbies do we see losing 1v1 Mastiff fights? They don't, because you've got the gun shield, you have the extra HP just to give you that little edge. And I think it's just something you need. It's something everyone needs. I mean, how many teams aren't playing Gibby these days? It's just, you have to do it. Enjoy it while it's here, everybody, as well, because as we said, things are going to change pretty soon. So I think get the best out of Gibby while you can.
Gaskin, it opens up the conversation for the future. We do have, obviously, Group D coming up next. I know Arena Demons is there. We're always talking about them because they made such a big impact in our arena tournaments. And I go back to Pandxrz using a 30-30. That's something Arena Demons kind of, coined in their successful run, not only in the second tournament, but also in the third tournament. Since things have sped up so quickly, I'm just out of curiosity, do you think maybe Arena Demons are going to have, I guess as much success as they did in tournament number 2 and 3 as they will in this tournament?
Yeah, I think that Arena Dims have always been a team that, adapt to the meta, sometimes force the meta themselves. They always find that extra way to try and break through, whether it be getting that opening pick or doing enough damage or, depleting the resources of the other team. If I'm correct, Lou is playing with Arena Demons as well. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was a change that's going to be happening, and it's a last-minute swap that's going to happen. But, it's one of those situations where Arena Demons, whoever they play with, are always going to be a scary team.